Thanksgiving, and why haven't we heard the truth about Thanksgiving?
Well, I think you just laid it out. If you tell the truth, then you got to talk about an act of genocide.
Right.
Yeah, that first Plymouth colony in the early 17th century. We know that they landed here in 1620.
Right.
As Malcolm said, Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Yeah,
right?
we didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
That's right. Plymouth Rock landed on us, brother.
Yeah.
And our Native American, the Wampanoag people in that region,
right.
in Massachusetts, and they only came here, these white folks, with about 100 so-called colonists.
Wow.
By the time they got through that first winter, they were celebrating the fact that they had survived, but only about half of them survived.
Wow.
Yeah, and only a little over 50.
Wow.
So they had a little harvest. But before they had that harvest, they were dying from disease and starvation.
Right.
There are only two accounts that survived that give any testimony as to who was there at that first Thanksgiving. And both of them written from the white side.
Right.
We know now, looking at some of the records of trials, for example, that some of those folks weren't just eating vegetables and meat.
Right.
Well, they were eating meat, but some of the meat included
human meat.
Human meat, brother. Because when you starving and somebody died, you're looking at them like, well, you're not using your body anymore, so maybe I just need to eat you.
So at the first Thanksgiving, there wasn't no turkey.
Well, they were giving thanks that they didn't have to eat each other anymore.
Right.
Although in their defense, in a little bit, some of them were tried for that because cannibalism was still something that they didn't want to do.
Wow.
But at some point, you have to survive.
Right.
You know. But the Native Americans, on the other hand, who apparently attended the first Thanksgiving, the Native Americans who may have been as much as 90 folks who were there.
Right.
And there's no clear account as to why they were there.
Right.
They had plenty of food.
Right.
Cranberries, fish. They had done
from
all
the
that.
land.
From
it was their land.
It was their land. In fact, they did help some of those Europeans survive.
Right.
Now, looking back 500 some years later, that may have been a bad decision.
Right.
But they did help them, and they were celebrating. It wasn't friendship. Now, there were some Africans. There were some Native Americans.
Right.
There was one dude named Squanto, for example.
Right.
Who ended up being enslaved.
Wow.
That's how he learned English.
Wow.
So he became a translator.
Wow.
Because he had been pressed into service by these Europeans, who, as you said, looked at these Native Americans as their God.
Right.
So they gave thanks to their God for having taken land from people who didn't even see land that way.
Right.
Because they were like,
they didn't even see it as theirs. This is like land is land.
Exactly.
They truly believe this land is our land. This land is your land.
Your land. Nature.
Right.
In fact, they didn't even farm the way we think about farming.
Right.
When you look at the European style, they clear out the land, then they make rows of things.
Right.
The Native Americans like, what are they doing?
Right.
You grow food in conversation with other food. So the squash, the pumpkins, the
all
greens,
grew
it
together.
all grew together, and that way you get to replenish the land. Because what's taken from one gives to the other, and you don't have to keep clearing our land to plant new crops. You don't plant single crops.
Right.
So even the technology of Thanksgiving gives us this notion that somehow the Europeans were superior.
Right.
Their God was better, their science was better. But no, they had starved, they had disease, and about half of them had died.
Right.
And they celebrated making it through their first winter, and the Native Americans showed up to be like, wow, I guess y'all made it. Meanwhile, they plotting on the Native Americans.
Man, and that's again, like even going back to what we discussed about Columbus Day, and you know that it should be shifted to Indigenous Peoples Day. But even again, this shows the kind hand and the generosity of the natives to, even though it was a massacre, that that was all not that was being set up, and therefore they were all thinking of the Europeans were thinking to rob them the entire time.
That's right.
But these kind people were still willing to give their land, give their food, and share with them. And we almost, when we celebrate Thanksgiving, we see it from the European perspective as I'm giving you something and you're giving me something, when ultimately the natives were saving the Europeans. And even that idea, like that should be something that we should embrace and celebrate. And even as, we all gonna sit down and have smoked turkey and chitlins
Right.
and
Exactly.
ham and all of that stuff.
Question.
And we've turned it more into a cultural day about family,
Yes.
which I can embrace. I mean, anytime we can get down and build with our generations and our family is important. But I think, again, that truth needs to come to the forefront of why these holidays were created and even the purpose. And like I said, even so much so that I felt like Lincoln used it as propaganda.
Oh, you know he did.
To, again, bring people closer together, but at the idea to say, look at what the elite have set up.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's right. Well, 1863, when we see it become part of the formal American calendar, the Civil War is still going on.
Right.
Part of it is trying to create a national identity.
Right.
How do you build? And that's what holidays
That
really
everyone
are.
can embrace.
That's exactly
That
right.
patriotism.
That's exactly right. Holidays are about building a national identity, a patriotism, a love of country.
A myth that everyone can follow.
Straight myth, brother. I mean, this is a guy who signs an Emancipation Proclamation, and in the same breath, then signs the death warrant on 38 Lakota Sioux in Minnesota, the biggest killing of people approved by a president, a guy named Little Crow, who was leading a revolt against the United States Army up in Minnesota, Fort Snelling. Same place they had Dred Scott and Harriet Scott enslaved.
Really? Yeah, and Lincoln signed that.
Lincoln signed the death warrant the same time he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. I mean, this is about taking their land from them Native Americans. So we look, Abraham Lincoln signed Thanksgiving into law. Yeah, he was giving thanks for taking land from Native Americans that he was responsible for. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't know about Thanksgiving. Now, you in and out of New York all the time. I was loving the man on the street.
Oh,
talking about, be able to vote like you get lottery ticket.
Right there.
That was genius, brother.
Thank you.
Genius. But, New York City, immigrants are coming. These white immigrants. They don't know they're white till they get to the United States.
Right.
Like we were talking about. They trying to avoid last place. So I'm from Hungary, or I'm from Germany, or I'm coming. So they come, they're getting jobs wherever they can.
Right.
A lot of these immigrants worked in the garment district in New York.
Right.
A lot of
Schmata business.
Exactly. A lot of them end up working for R.H. Macy. R.H. Macy is, of course, the department store guy, right? Now, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving. They don't know nothing about that.
Right.
So when it comes time for that time, where are they going to go? So they get in this national spirit. What do? They start wearing their national dress. They bring their national dishes. They bring them to the store. They bring them around, and they exchange with each other because they're going to get in the mirror. Macy's people are watching this. So
we could capitalize off of this.
And so what do? They start doing a little march around the block to show off their clothes.
Right.
And then people start watching. Macy's like, this is interesting. Years later, we now have the
Macy's Day Parade.
And in that Macy's Parade, I'm sure you've been. I don't know if you're taking your kids yet.
Yeah, I've hosted it before.
Oh, that's right. Well, look, here's the thing. This is why I go to the Macy's Parade. I try to go if I'm on the East Coast. Because I like to be there and I like to watch it on TV while I'm watching it in real life.
Right.
What you see is all these people that bake these cookies and all these sales to get their band to the Macy's Parade.
Right.
They don't get on TV. Not all of them.
Nah.
They walk by. But I guess what gets on TV? Every float. Why? Because I'm watching the children point to the floats and say, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. Every one of them floats is something to buy.
Yeah.
I'm watching the parents looking too, and they know some of the people, but then some of them they don't.
Right.
Who's the last act in the Macy's Parade? Santa Claus.
Always.
And what is Santa Claus? He's waving bye. No, not B-Y-E.
Bye.
Bye. Because what you just saw
was a
commercial. And it started with R.H. Macy looking at these immigrants who knew nothing about Thanksgiving, who came to try to be part of the American ritual, and he's sitting there thinking, how can I make a profit off of this little celebration? It's really fascinating.
Fascinating.
Yeah. 1941, they make it official.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there we have it. We celebrate. So keep all that in mind when you eating your fried turkey and your chitlins and your canned cranberries.
Yeah. And then going back and giving all your money back to the store on Black Thursday and Cyber Monday and all that.
The next day you're going to be shopping. They in your pocket.
That night, midnight.
Yeah. It's going down. Well, Doc, I appreciate this again, dropping that wisdom about Thanksgiving. I know this is going to touch a lot.
Brother,
Hey, yo, peace and love to all the eyes and to all the ears that are watching and that are listening to my channel. My name is Rha'mel McQueen, and this is You Got Mel, back with another video. So check it. Today, I want to talk about why I don't celebrate Thanksgiving Day no more. And I want to share with you the knowledge that I've learned from research and I want to bring you just truth. I don't want to hide anything that you didn't know, but I just ask that you bear with me right now, and let me expose some things to you. And yo, first and foremost, yo, if you are a new subscriber to my channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way, when I make more content, you'll be the first to know. And if you like this video, just share it with somebody else, yo. So, like I said, the name of this video is called "Why I Don't Celebrate Thanksgiving Day Anymore," and I just want to talk about the real truth of Thanksgiving that people maybe did not even know. I wrote some things down on a piece of loose leaf paper so that way I could just state my truth and I could state my facts, and that I won't forget anything that I would like to share with you today, yo. Alright? So we're going to talk about the tragedy and genocide of Thanksgiving. If you didn't know, Thanksgiving was ultimately a celebration for a massacre of 700 men, women, and children of Native Americans. And Abraham Lincoln, he sanctioned it a holiday so that way he could, kind of clean it up and sweep things underneath the rug. And in 1621, the Pilgrims had came to America, particularly to Rhode Island, if I'm not mistaken, right? In 1621, and they set up shop here. But when they came here, there was people that were here first anyway. And just to let you know, before they were called Pilgrims, they was called settlers. So they came to the country of America in 1621, and they seen that there were people that was living on the land before they were, and it was a Native American tribe. I didn't write that down. I totally forgot what the name was, but it was a Native American tribe that was here already, and the Pilgrims, they didn't know how to fish. They didn't know how to do anything, on the land. So the Native Americans, they helped them by showing them, how to eat, how to go fishing, how to plant corn, and how to build and things of that nature. So the Native Americans became friendly with the Pilgrims, and the Pilgrims, in their mind, they was going to set everything up to take their land by just being friendly and being fake kind to them, right? And it was a massacre. Like I said, over 700 Native Americans, they were murdered. You know what I'm saying? And the Pilgrims, they were practicing cannibalism by eating each other during the gruesome winter. So there was a time where winter time came, and it was a real treacherous winter that the Pilgrims were not prepared for, and a lot of them, they were dying. You know what I'm saying? But as they was dying, for them to survive, they were eating each other off. You know what I'm saying? And you could call that another reason they was calling it Thanksgiving, because they didn't have to worry about eating each other more and practicing cannibalism. Even though they didn't want to practice cannibalism, you know what I'm saying? They had no choice because they was dying and they were suffering in the winter, right? And so the Native Americans had plenty of food from their land because they was living on their land. They was living off the land, I should say. And they was growing things from their land. Like I said before, they was helping the Pilgrims, teaching them how to do certain things so that way they could grow off the land as well, grow and eat off the land. But the Pilgrims, they was making roads on the land, you know what I mean, and dividing places and acres, I should say, where they was supposed to be planting food, and they was building roads and things like that. And the Native Americans that didn't like that, because they was like, what are you doing? Like, this land right here, we use this land particularly to build crops, you know what I'm saying, and to build food and things of that nature, right? And so the Pilgrim thing, like I said, it was practicing cannibalism, right? And they took the land and they brought diseases. And a lot of diseases, and they killed a lot of the pilgrims. They died from these diseases, but not also did they die, but the Native Americans were dying from the diseases the Europeans were had brought to the country. And you see, so Thanksgiving today, indigenous people, the Native Americans, they don't celebrate it as Americans celebrating, eating and celebrating the day of Thanksgiving in that kind of way, but they celebrate it as a day of mourning because a lot of the Native Americans were murdered once upon a time, and so they were mourning instead. So how we observe this national holiday as a Thanksgiving, the Native Americans, they observed it as a day of mourning, like I said. And the government they did violate their treaties, and this still is their land. Like the land that we're living on is still the land of the Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? And uh, the government know that. You know what I'm saying? And and even though they knew that, they wasn't giving them back the land that they stole from them. And Thanksgiving, it has been whitewashed. I mean, I know you learned in school, you know what I mean, how the Indians and the Pilgrims were friendly with one another and they were sharing food with one another, but that was only to whitewash you and me because it didn't happen like that. That wasn't real. It was actually a lie. It was actually a cover up, and it was fabricating the story to what really really happened. And and at that time, like I said, the Europeans, the Pilgrims, they described Native Americans as savages. They described them as savage people who were cruel and barbarous and most treacherous. And that's by a man named Governor William Bradford of Plymouth Colony, Massachusetts. And these Native Americans, they were eradicated. And not also were they eradicated from off the land, but also they were sold. Like the captive tribal members, they were sold and they was bought into slavery. And I don't know if you knew that, but this is why I feel like I'm not. This is why I know I won't celebrate Thanksgiving anymore. I mean, I am very grateful to be alive every single day. I'm very grateful to be a part of my family, and I'm more grateful to be conscious and be convicted of sin. And for the Most High Yahshua, you know what I mean, He died for me. You know what I mean. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So every day is a day of gratefulness. Every day is a day to give thanks to the Most High. And I just want to include that in this video to let you know about Thanksgiving because it really, really wasn't what we expected or thought it was. It was a very treacherous, very treacherous day where the Native Americans were murdered. It was actually a genocide where they eradicated all the people that were on the land and they took over the land. That is the Europeans, the Pilgrims, aka the settlers. So I just wanted to bring this message to you, and I hope that it could share some light and some truth to the day of Thanksgiving. And if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, yo. And until the next time, may the Lord richly bless you, my beloved. I hope you have a beautiful day, yo. And like I said, I'm just very grateful to be alive today and to know what the truth is, and to know that everything that I thought was the truth, it wasn't. It was nothing but a lie. And these holidays are pagan holidays. And if you are in the truth and in the light of the Most High, you don't celebrate these pagan days. You don't follow the world. Is the world going this way? You go that way. You don't follow the currents because the current is going to push you to go toward that way. But if you are a part of the Most High and you have His Spirit in you, you go this way. You don't follow the currents. You don't follow the tides that try to push you that way. We go this way, even if it means that we got to walk alone.